back on the defense in this video and back to the pass rush, because again, if you can't generate pressure in this game, the coverage you have behind it almost doesn't matter. Last year I made the switch to being predominantly a D-line user because I was tired of cooking up the kind of quote-unquote perfect coverage and having my opponent sit in the pocket for 5 seconds, roll out to buy another few seconds, and then throw to some open receiver all the way across the field. I decided to put pressure into my own hands and haven't looked back since. I know there's kind of a stigma about using the D-line, but really, I don't care. To me, it's fun, it's effective, and it adds something fresh and different to the game, which is why I like it. This video won't go too in depth to how I use the D-line. Maybe we'll go, into the details a little bit further down the road, or maybe for the members only videos where we can really go a deep dive into it. But for this one, we'll go into a funny new kind of bug / feature that makes the user rush much better. And that's with the hidden turbo button that allows us to get to the quarterback quicker. And it also opens up some really unique and cool rush lanes to change up our avenues of attack. So how you do this, you can get creative and do this in so many different ways, however which way you want it. So I'll just show it in a basic over front right here, nickel 2-4-5, cover 4 quarters, and then we'll come up against one of the best passing sets in the game with gun bunch with a 5-man pass protection just for now. So as always, we'll just set the stage a little bit here, give you a little bit of context before we get right into it. If you followed my videos last year, you know that I love to user this D lineman in the A gap, which is usually your nose tackle. And so in last game, for whatever reason, you would draw that double team between the guard and the center, and it was really easy to split that double team. I don't know why, but it was. And you would split them really quickly, and then you'd come in on the quarterback. So this year, they did a good job of fixing that. I mean, Davenport isn't the best pass rusher, but even if you had somebody good there, they almost always get stuffed. So I've pretty much completely given up on using that guy in most senses. There's some cool ways you can play around with him, and we'll get into that at the later end of this video. But now, rather than being on the 1 technique or the 2-eye, whatever he is, the nose tackle, I'm on the 3 tech. So he is going to essentially draw a single team unless they do some sort of crazy double team action or something like that manually. But if it's just stock, he'll be a single team with the guard, who usually isn't that great of a pass protector, and then usually you can just do a swim move and get by him pretty quickly. Onyemata, great defensive tackle in real life. He's not super great in this game, but I think he's good enough. So right here, I'll get the one-on-one. Once I engage with him, I just click left or right on the right stick. I will likely win, and then I'll just go into the quarterback. So in this case, you see I win, and I come in for my sack. So that's all well and good. Now, to make that even better, this year, for whatever reason, there seems to be some sort of a hidden turbo button. By just holding A, he goes way faster. And I think it has something to do with kind of pursuit and, when you're near the ball carrier. This sometimes occurs in the open field too. If you hold A, like if you're going for a nice, safe conservative tackle, for some reason they kind of suction, not even a suction actually, you can miss by doing this, but it gives you a turbo boost for whatever reason. So I'll show you, watch really carefully here. Maybe, I guess it's hard to compare without seeing it kind of side by side, but when I do this, when I beat him, you'll see this turbo is just much quicker and gets the quarterback much faster. Now, not only will this increase your chance of getting sacks, but what's great about it is that you can actually, even if you don't get the sack, you're forcing the quarterback to make quicker throws, quicker decision, and then oftentimes they'll make bad decisions, or even if they make a good decision and they get the ball off, sometimes you're able to get in the quarterback's region area, and especially if you have like under pressure ability, there's a good chance that ball will sail away from the wide receiver. So I really like it. I think it's better than just using the middle linebacker like everybody else does. And especially this year, it's hard to kind of cover multiple routes, so why not? You might as well. So then I'll just show you one more time again. So you just, swim him, and then we just turbo to the quarterback and get our sack. Another reason where this is good is if they have a blocked running back. So this way now we have 6-man pass protection, and in last year, if you get past the offensive line, usually the running back was there to kind of get in your way, and that would make things difficult. But in this case, because you have this kind of hidden turbo button, you can just kind of swerve right around him. So again, I'll beat him, and I'll just swerve around the running back, and again, I get in on the quarterback. Similar to last year, though, if you if you don't want to do that, and if the running back for whatever reason is able to pick you up better, say if he's on your side initially, you can just bull rush him, right? So in this case, for whatever reason, he doesn't actually want to target me. I could have just went in right at the quarterback there. But let's just go something like this. Let's float him over to my side. He's taking a while. So we'll go ahead and beat this guy, and then we can just kind of bull rush him aside, and we can still kind of get at the quarterback. It's a little bit wonkier this year, I think. So maybe you're best off just trying to swerve around him. The other thing I like is if you don't get that initial win against the defensive lineman, like this is the Vikings line, they're pretty poor. If you're playing Ultimate Team or something like that, chances are it's much better offensive linemen. And there are some cases that, you'll do your swim move or your whatever it is, and you don't win. Like here, it's showing it every time just because for the purpose of demonstration, but in reality, it won't happen every time. But if you lose, what you can do is you can just, press B and cycle to one of your other defensive linemen. Hopefully one of these outside guys, which I usually put on a contain so that the quarterback can't escape. Ideally, it doesn't always happen. But what I'll do is I'll pretend I lose here, and then I'll click on to, say, the defensive end. I'll swipe around, and I'll still use that turbo to get in quickly. So right away, you're seeing, although it's kind of this crazy, buggy kind of feature that allows us to get that quick pressure, there's still kind of a little bit of thinking, a little bit of creativity that goes into this whole thing. Even if you lose with your 3-tech, you can kind of click on and get your second chance from one of your defensive ends, try to come around the side. And it's especially good if they try to roll out, then you can kind of turbo and catch them in the backfield. Other things you can do, and this takes quite a bit more practice, but if you kind of commit to it like me, I think it's worth it. I think it's good, and I think it's actually fun too. One thing I did at the end of the year, although I was primarily on this guy in the A gap right here, sometimes I'd take control of the 3-tech here, or I'd use like the El Toro, or I'd do kind of a manual stunt where I loop from essentially B gap to B gap. And at the end of the year last year, you had all these fast defensive ends that could easily do that. This year, you really can't. I'll show you right here. I mean, this is like a proper defensive tackle rather than an end. But, if I show you B gap to B gap without the turbo, it's a little bit tough, right? So in this case, I clearly wasn't able to stun around there. But with the turbo, you can actually get around B gap to B gap in this case, even with some of these slower defensive linemen. And that's another good reason, a good thing about this is that you don't have to just go get the fastest guys. You can use some of your slower guys that can maybe have better power move, better finesse move, and they still have the quickness to get to the quarterback. And then in this case, this is, requires a little bit of practice, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in practice mode. Even then, it's something that you can't get consistently, but I like it. I think it's fun. So right away after the snap, I just hold left, press the turbo, and I'm aiming at the kind of the inside hip of the left tackle, right? I don't want that guard to engage with me. So just like this, I'll come around. And in that case, you see I didn't do it good. I didn't go wide enough, and he was able to pick me up. But if you do it just right and you go a little bit wider, like so, you can actually come in free without having to do any of your pass rushing. So where I like to do this is when, I'm just trying to change things up. Say if I'm getting, I'm struggling a little bit on the other side, they're hitting me with double teams, or I'm out of pass rush points, or that guard is just doing a really good job, then I'll try that loop. And in a lot of cases, I think it's really, really good. The other thing you can do is actually do it from the same side. So you don't have to go B gap to B gap. You can do it from the same side A gap to the same side B gap. It's a little bit tighter, might be a little bit trickier, might be a little bit easier too. I don't know, depending on which one you practice. But it's really the same thing. I'll contain, get those ends to widen out, give me a little bit more space. And then again, I'm just aiming at the inner hip of that tackle. So right here, I'll go around, I was able to squeeze through and come in for that almost instant sack. And then in some cases there, if you're really wide and you're really kind of close to that left tackle, sometimes even he'll just engage with you, and then that defensive end will be completely free. And so that's good in that case too. You don't come in free, but your buddy does. So you can do this guy. You can even go over here. I don't really do this too often, but you can even go from the end to the A gap on the right. So just like this. And right there, okay, that was kind of glitchy, but you kind of saw something there at the end there. In some cases, if you're holding down this turbo button too long, then he'll kind of auto trip himself. So it's not like something you can just hold forever, right? So if you're coming up against somebody that's elusive in the pocket or kind of backing up a little bit and you're hitting turbo right away, there are situations where your guy will just fall over and then the quarterback can just run free. So, this is one of the few things. There's a few different things that, there's actual some downsides to this. It's not completely overpowered, but I do like how, you can beat your guy and get to the quarterback quicker. Plus you have all these different ways you can do manual loops and manual stunts to really change things up again. The other things that I will say about it, other caveats, like if you are doing this manual looping kind of pressure stuff, if they hit you with play action, it kind of makes it worse, right? If it's play action, those offensive linemen really come off the ball and kind of more aggressive towards you rather than backstepping. And so, usually they'll engage with you before you can even loop. So if you're expecting maybe a play action, I'd probably, not bother with the looping stuff and just go with the traditional kind of pass rush moves. The other thing is, it's really only with defensive linemen. You can't do it with linebackers. So in this case, even if you can, they're just going to get nano detected. So I think they'll try that again with the nickel right here. Yeah, he just doesn't, for whatever reason. I mean, he's quick anyway, but for whatever reason, he just doesn't get that turbo. And then also the last thing I'll say is be careful also for yourself. If you're too good at this, maybe you yourself can get nano detected. One way I'll show you this is if I back up really quickly, this gap, this A gap right here will open up like wide open and I should be able to turbo right through it, but I get nano detected like this. You see that? And then I'm able to get picked up, which is a good thing. You don't want this to be totally crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's kind of fun. I think it's kind of crazy. I think it'll likely get patched at some point. I'm probably the only guy using, D-line rush moves, especially stuff like this. So I don't know if it'll be on the devs radar. There's so many other things, a huge pile of fixes that need to be made before this. But, if you're struggling on D, if you're struggling to get some pass rush, consider this. Consider the blitz that I put out earlier this week. Consider this. I think, even if the zones get a buff, the pass rush is just really, really weak at this point. Like I have like a gold defensive line, like just some random cards I don't even know, and I never get pressure. Unless, they send 6 or 7 guys at me. But maybe they'll tune that too, and then you can kind of forget about this stuff and go to just usering on your own. But for now, if you want pressure, I think this is good. I think it's fun. I think it's different. And it's also really good in the run game too. But, the run game isn't something to be too concerned with yet. Anyway, so that'll be that for this one, guys. Definitely leave a like if you like that. Subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more videos in the coming weeks and months. The game hasn't changed, again, too much from the previous game, but there's still cool things that we can go over. I'm hoping to do a passing in the red zone video soon, and then for the members only, I have a video planned for defending gun bunch with quarters type of coverages. I think it's really good. I think there's a lot of really interesting and unique things to consider there to make you much better against the quote-unquote best passing formation in the game. But that'll just have to come in a few days. Anyway, that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.